Alright, so it's no secret that the Wii U was in pretty deep trouble. Very poor sales, weak hardware compared to the PS4 and Xbox Phone Connect thing #1, and major third-party developers all but jumping ship. Though that's kind of their fault for releasing shoddy last-gen ports thinking they'd sell, but that's a whole other argument. Eventually, the only thing keeping this console afloat was the constant wave of indie titles and a handful of awesome platformers and action games. But with Nintendo in their third straight year of loss, the company did what seemed to be a last-ditch effort for moving sales, advertising the living hell out of one of their biggest series, Mario Kart 8, to the point where they actually just gave you a free game with it. In fact, Nintendo was so confident that Mario Kart 8 would save the Wii U that they planned a year-long campaign for the game. TV commercials, a built-in highlight reel editor for YouTube, a bundle that comes with a strategy guide and wheels. It's nuts! So now that gamers have their hands on it, it's time to show you how Mario Kart 8 single-handedly jump-started the Wii U. Well, maybe not single-handed, because you should have both hands on the wheel at all times. BNGR. Now, if there was ever a Nintendo series to be consistently good where you barely had to change anything and still receive critical acclaim, it's definitely the Mario Kart series. And you know what? That's not a bad thing at all. Mario Kart 64 had 3D racing, Double Dash had 2-player carts, DS had retro tracks and online play, we had, 7 brought underwater and gliding segments. I mean, you know I'm generalizing here, but each installment builds on the foundation for the next one, and it works, so it prints a lot of money, okay? In fact, back in 2012, the 3DS was also hurting with price drops and ambassador programs and nothing to play but Pilot Wings and some stupid submarine simulator. But then with the double punch of Mario 3D Land and Mario Kart 7, the 3DS soared in sales, and now everyone loves the darn thing. However, this whole 3DS comeback ironically left the Wii U in the dust too. While people thought huge games like 3D World or Donkey Kong would save it, it's been a very different story for Nintendo's first HD console. Sites constantly came up with doom and gloom articles for the company, and unfortunately the Wii U was just having a very negative response. And then Mario Kart 8 came out and was so successful that it sold 1.2 million units in 3 days, hardware sales went up by over 400%, and I'm pretty sure Iwata and Reggie had mini heart attacks. And this was without the tons of Wii U games shown at Nintendo's 2014 digital event, so good job, Nintendo! Woo! So with all that said, let's get straight into the game and see what makes Mario Kart 8 so special. And by the way, for reference, I will be using a pink Wii remote with a Wii wheel, so I'll let you get your judging out of the way right now. Okay, cool. Okay, so when you turn on the game, you're greeted with a very simple menu, which allows you to do single player, multiplayer, or online modes. But to start things off, let's talk about single player. Now the content in here is almost identical to previous installments. First up is the Grand Prix, where you can tackle 8 different cups with 4 tracks each, so that's 16 new tracks and 16 retro tracks. Every time you complete a cup, the coins you collect in courses, which are also used to increase your top speed in-game, are added to your overall total. The more coins you get, the more car parts you can customize with, and so forth. You get the idea. Along with this, when you get first place in a cup, you usually unlock a random character, and if you're really good, depending on how many points you get can get up to 3 stars in each cup. But hold on, since this is really where the game starts to switch things up. You see, in previous Mario Kart games, the ranking was way more than just points. You couldn't fall off the track, you had to stay in first place as much as you can, and heck, even bumping into walls was bad. But in this game, as long as you get 60 points, you will automatically get 3 stars. Thank God! You don't know how frustrating it was to get first place in all 4 tracks in a cup and then see you got a rank of 2 stars. Good one, game! I'll make you see 2 stars. And on top of this improvement, if you complete a cup in, say, 100cc, your rank will be carried down to lower CCs, which means say goodbye to the days where you had to blast through 50cc while just messing around the whole time. Nintendo really tried to cater to all audiences this time, and I love how they handled it. Speaking of audiences, another feature that hasn't been around since Mario Kart 64's return, 4-player Grand Prix. So following suit in Nintendo's Mario games, you can tackle this mode with a bunch of friends, and if they're new to Mario Kart, it really makes 50cc and 100cc a lot more fun. In fact, it's actually encouraged since all the coins other players get are added to your own coin count, allowing you to unlock car parts a lot quicker. Just don't expect to get 3 stars if you do that though. To sum up Grand Prix, it's a lot smoother and a less tedious experience than previous entries, and feels more straightforward and balanced than ever. The gameplay also helps with this, but we'll get back to that later. Next up is Time Trials, which is exactly what you expect. You race on any of the Grand Prix courses with 3 mushrooms equipped, and you find shortcuts everywhere to get the fastest time. Also, just like the previous games, you can upload your ghost data for others to race, and even compete against ghosts straight from Nintendo headquarters. It's really addictive to learn new strategies from the different ghosts and see what percentile your record lands in. Minus the whole Miiverse thing, it's the same as 7 and it works well. Next up is Versus Mode, and, well, you can take a guess what it is. It's a completely customizable Grand Prix with item choices and CPU levels and all that good stuff. It's exactly like the online mode, but we'll get back to that in just a second. But first, it's time to talk about the big dud of this game. The one thing you didn't think Nintendo would possibly mess up. The gigantic stain on your favorite shirt. Battle Mode. Okay, so remember in previous Mario Kart games, there were specific maps catered to this mode, like Skyscraper or the GameCube or Block Fort. You were always the favorite in my heart. But in this game, they took 8 of the 32 Grand Prix tracks and just slapped balloons on people. It's soulless, it's boring, and it's not even a fraction of the fun 7 was in this mode. And I really hope they fix this with DLC, as much as it pains me to say it. So anyway, since single player and multiplayer have the exact same modes, it's time to go over the meat of the game. Online play. Now Mario Kart's done a really good job with online since Wii and 7. They added communities where any group of people could just face off against each other. The online was usually pretty lag-free. People couldn't snake all over the place like in Mario Kart DS. And adding the BR rating really gives you a purpose to fight strangers online. And luckily, Mario Kart 8 made it even better. Not only can you choose matches between regional or worldwide players now, but communities have been turned into tournaments, which give you a lot more options. On top of item customization and all that good stuff, you can now set certain times when a tournament takes place, and to add to that, you can set the amount of races they can do, so the playing field is leveled for everyone. Just like Grand Prix, it's much more balanced and the online play is nearly perfect with barely any lag. Nintendo did a fantastic job here. Now that we got all the racing modes out of the way, it's time to talk about Nintendo's new money machine. I mean, highlight reel. Mario Kart TV. That wasn't even a convincing cough. Alright, so the first thing veterans of the series would think is that it's like the Mario Kart channel, but that wouldn't make any sense since almost all of those features, like joining tournaments or ghost data, are already in the main game. No, Mario Kart TV is actually where you can save any of your races, watch them in slow motion or sped up, and then upload them to YouTube if they're a minute or less. And of course make a little money for Nintendo with their share of the revenue, cause that's a thing. Anyway, it's a wonderful way to get the Mario Kart name out there since there will be millions of these videos on YouTube, but there's one little thing that bothers me about them. You see, at the end of the recorded race, it'll show you which player is which, right? Well, unfortunately, there's no usernames on the racers during the race, so without paying close attention, you're just gonna see a bunch of Nintendo characters chucking items at each other, not knowing which of your friends is getting wrecked. It's really hard to make sense of anything that's going on. Not a big deal, but I see it as more of an interface issue. In fact, that's another small annoyance I have with the game, its menu and interface. Everything just put in really poor spots. Want to change from tilt control to buttons? Well, go ahead, it's in the pause menu? Want to go see your total coin amount? Sorry, you can't do that. Are you playing alone and you want to switch from the gamepad to another controller? Well, you can go back to the main menu and do it, but if you're occupied in a race, you'll have to walk 30 feet away from your Wii U until your gamepad is out of range and then go back to your room and choose a new remote. It's a blast. Trust me. The biggest problem I had, however, is that the game doesn't tell you that your highest ranking in 100cc or 150cc is now passed down to lower CCs. So because of that, me and many other players wasted our day blazing through 50cc in first place. It's just a lot of these small frustrations that put a hamper on your playing experience, since this game really could have used an options menu. Or an actual tutorial. Okay, so enough about features. It's time to answer the big questions. Does Mario Kart 8 play well, and is it really the best game in the series? Well, let's get straight to the review and find out. First up is fun, and, well, what do you think? It's Mario Kart! The customizable cars, the fantastic track design, the gliding, the underwater segments, the items. This game is a great reminder of what makes the series so much fun. And in the tradition of Mario Kart building on its foundation, anti-gravity has been added to the tracks, which changes the gameplay just enough that it's integrated really well. You see, when you go into anti-gravity, the weight of your vehicle feels like it changes, and drifting and maneuvering feels a lot more floaty. On top of that, hitting enemies is actually encouraged in this mode, since you get a speed boost whenever you crash into other drivers, or certain items on the track. And seeing this mechanic in new courses and older courses that we played on for years is quite the treat. Not to mention the return of bikes makes it even more interesting, since they're difficult to master even when you're on solid ground. They're also different from the Wii version too, since wheelies are gone and instead got an upgrade to boosts, and they feel a lot more balanced. Once you get a hang of them, they're much easier to control than karts, though their drift boosts do take a bit longer to charge up. A couple other items have also been added to the game, such as the Piranha Plant, which eats enemies while giving yourself a boost, the Boomerang, which you can throw at other enemies up to 3 times, and the wonderful godsend that is the Super Horn, which allows you to destroy blue shells and anything else around you. it's pretty much the best thing ever. Now, one item a lot of people have been complaining about in this game is the coin item, which we haven't seen in over 10 years. When you're in first place, this item pops up a lot, which kills your defenses from other items, and it's just frustrating since you'll probably have 10 coins already. However, despite these complaints, I actually see the item as a new layer to the game's strategy, since it gets you to save up any good item so you can avoid the dreaded coin. It transforms Mario Kart from a game of luck to a game of risk, and honestly, I like it a lot more this way. Throw in a fantastic online mode, time trials, and a much improved Grand Prix, and you got a great party game that will take you a long time to get sick of. It just kinda sucks about the battle mode being garbage and those interface problems though. Check. Second up is looks, and oh my goodness, where to even begin. Mario Kart 8 is hands down the best looking game on Wii U, and perhaps the most beautiful Nintendo game to date. Everything moves at a solid 60 frames per second with no slowdown, the backgrounds and players look like their own realistic looking world, and even with 2 players, the game still runs at the same frame rate. Now with 3 or 4 players, the frame rate does go down to 30, but the funny thing is that this review is running in 25 frames per second. So even the 4-player races run smoother than the footage I'm showing you. If you want a good idea of what this game actually looks like in motion, I've put a link in the description to show you an example. It looks so good that it's beyond what I can actually put on YouTube. In all honesty, Mario Kart 8 is the first Nintendo game where I've played it for an hour straight, and when I look away from the TV, I have to get used to what real life looks like again. It's that good, folks. Check plus. Third up is sound, and once again, Nintendo really outdid themselves here. You've been hearing these tracks the entire review, and they're fully orchestrated and they're freaking awesome. Even tracks from the Super Nintendo and GBA games have awesome remixes. Unfortunately, the character noises can get kinda grating, as the usual for the series. But the remixes here are so good that I still think it's enough to give it a check plus. Fourth up is length, and I feel like the game is just worth $60, nothing more. You get 32 tracks, about 40 car parts to unlock, a bunch of Miiverse stickers to use, and of course, the 30 character roster. Even though I don't agree with the character choices, I mean, was 5 baby characters and Pink Gold Peach necessary? What the heck does Pink Gold even mean? Each character has their own personality, and I'm sure everyone will find a favorite. For me, it's Morton. Not to mention you get time trials, the Grand Prix, the online mode, so we can all just kind of forget battle mode exists and throw it under the rug. It's not packed to the brim with content, but even for people who didn't get the free game, I still believe it's worth $60. Check. In conclusion, Mario Kart 8 is by far the best game in the Mario Kart series, and arguably the best kart racer of all time. It's freaking gorgeous, the music is spot on, it has a ton of options for both local and online play, and is much more balanced than previous games. It's definitely not perfect, and it could have been a bit better if the game had more development time, but the second you start playing on these amazingly designed courses, you'll instantly forget about its shortcomings. If you didn't think the Wii U had the killer app it needed, or you think Nintendo's doomed, play this game for 5 minutes, and you'll see that it deserves every scrap of hype it gets. And with all the Wii U games that have been announced, this is only just the beginning of Nintendo's comeback. So with all this in mind, Mario Kart 8 is definitely worthy of a check plus. Well, now that that's over with, I think it's time to sit down, relax, and watch some Mario Kart TV highlights. Yeah! That's pretty cool, yeah! Alright, I like it. Whoa! Let me get this straight. You're given an app for these kinds of videos, and the most popular one on the internet is off a smartphone. I quit. It's over. Nintendo's doomed. Frick.